I've got cappuccino's hair everywhere on me. Push is she? Push. It's right here. Okay. Wow. I can't even. Oh. Oh. Don't mind me. I'm just a crazy lady with a crazy buddy. Buddy. Hey guys. Hey guys. If you're new here, my name is Anne and I like to talk about books sometimes. Today I'm gonna talk about, sorry, I got cappuccino's hair everywhere around me. Today I'll talk about It Ends With Us, and specifically, oh my god. I want to talk about the things I didn't like about It Ends With Us. Before I begin, I want to make clear that this story is inspired by the author's mother's experience with abuse. So now that that's out of the way, It Ends With Us is supposedly a romance story. Yeah. So It Ends With Us tells the story of Lily Bloom and Ryle Kincaid and their doomed romance as she traces her past, growing up in an abusive home and falling in love with a homeless guy. The story opens up with Lily on a rooftop clearing her thoughts after her father's funeral. There, she meets Ryle, a surgeon who is so successful and handsome, and also clearly has anger management issues. But they totally hit it off. They have chemistry and such, but it's really clear from the beginning that they're looking for different things. Specifically, Ryle is looking for one night with Lily. Good luck with that. And on the other hand, Lily is looking for a serious relationship. Good luck with that. So nothing happens and they just part ways, and they accidentally meet up like 6 months later after Lily hires Ryle's sister at her flower shop. And this sister, mind you, is so rich and she doesn't have to do anything, but she's so bored of being, rich and doesn't have to work that she actually decided she wanted to work. So I don't know what kind of social statement that makes, like, rich people want to work too? I don't know. Work is important in a person's life, or work gives meaning to someone's life. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could just sit here and try to decode Alyssa, Ryle's sister, like her behavior and the way she thinks, but I don't want to do that. I want to talk about Lily today and the problematic relationships. Anyway, Lily and Ryle's attraction to each other just becomes stronger, every time they meet. And they always seem to meet accidentally, but that's not the point. And then Ryle wakes up one morning and suddenly decides that he wants to explore a relationship with Lily. And let's just stop here for a second. Let's just acknowledge the fact that a guy who doesn't want to be in a relationship decides that he's actually gonna try a relationship. And this has nothing to do with the fact that he's a cis male. It's just the fact that he doesn't want a relationship, but he ends up having one. I think it's really important to remember this fact as we go through the rest of the story, because I think most of the problems stem from this place. Because for the most part, Ryle might be in denial, not, realizing that he's actually miserable with Lily. And in actuality, he just wants to be single and free and do whatever single free dudes do. Work. They work. I don't know. Ryle works all the time. He's a surgeon. Like, I'm not taking his side in this story. I would never do that. Ryle is a terrible person. No pity for Ryle here. He was very unlikable, and based on his character, even before everything happened, you know, before the abuse, he didn't seem like the kind of guy I would want to hang out with. Mr. I'm hiding my fragile ego behind my successful career. But I think it's important to notice right from the beginning that their relationship was just a terrible compromise straight from the beginning. They were doomed from the start. Through this time, Lily finds herself seeking for closure from the past, from the fact that her father was abusive towards her mother. And to find that closure, she turns to old journals that she wrote when she was 15. Those journals remind her of Atlas Carrigan, the homeless guy I mentioned earlier, who was 18 years old at the time and was kicked out of home. When she was young, she wanted to help him, and she gave him clothes and food and stuff, and they became really close. And he even supported her when she witnessed her father abusing her mother. And as she reads on through the journals, she starts to wonder whether she's also looking for closure with Atlas. And when there's no closure, you know, this is not going to end well. Probably. Possibly. I don't know why I have this cynical attitude today. Moving on. Colleen Hoover lets us believe that everything is perfect between Lily and Ryle. Their feelings only intensifying as they spend time with each other and get to know each other, although they don't really know each other, but that's a point I'm gonna talk about later. But we know the truth. We're not fooled from this, you know, seemingly perfect life, because we know that Ryle is just a mysterious guy who we know nothing about, and probably also Lily knows nothing about, and he's got anger management issues and also killed his brother. Well, so yeah, you kind of know that it's not going to end well. On a random night, Lily happens upon Atlas. I don't know why I said it like that. Oh my god. So moving forward, Lily and Ryle's happiness come to an end when Ryle hits her for the first time. Afterwards, he is apologetic and comforts her and stuff, and Lily lets him and assures her that he's nothing like her father, and Lily kind of believes that he's nothing like her father because, like, they're so in love. Oh my god. You can tell I really hate Ryle. Anyway, Lily actually threatens him to leave if he ever does that again, if he ever hits her again. Which, of course, like, you know, like, you don't have to read the book to understand that that's not the case, because victims of abuse don't actually acknowledge what's going on so early, you know, like, it's a vicious cycle, you know, like, they're abused and then, oh my god, I don't want to talk about this now. So anyway, they both declare their love for each other and move on as if nothing has happened. But the next day, Atlas sees her wound and sees that Ryle has a bandaged arm, and he puts the pieces together and kind of like recognizes the pattern. Like, he's grown up in an abusive home, he's seen Lily's parents, abusive situation, so he kind of realizes correctly that that's what's going on between Ryle and Lily. So yeah, long story short, Atlas confronts Lily in the restroom in a restaurant. I forgot to mention they're in his restaurant. He owns a restaurant now. Whatever. But she defends Ryle, and Atlas is so furious and compares her to her mother, who never actually left her father. So Ryle finds the two old friends talking, and of course they end up in a very original scene fighting. And then basically what happens from that point on is that Ryle becomes paranoid and thinks that Lily is saying Atlas behind his back. Of course. So this is when things start getting bad and everything goes downhill from this point on. But I'll spare you the details and I'll just talk about some things I didn't like about the book and why I think that this book doesn't deserve all the hype. Firstly, I want to talk about Lily and Ryle's abusive relationship. Ryle was abusive towards Lily at some point throughout their relationship. If I remember correctly, those were like 3 distinct instances. Like, there were 3 parts of the book where you can spot exactly like this is abuse, and this is abuse. Nothing else in between was abusive. It wasn't in the beginning, like it never is. You can't tell if someone is abusive from the day you meet them. It's always slow and progressive. Sometimes they turn abusive years later, maybe months later. You can actually never know. And in this book, there's actually a breaking point. There is a breaking point in the book, but it's not really discussed within the context of the book. And the author also speaks about some people being abusive towards other people, their spouses in this case, but never towards other people. Like, Ryle is abusive towards Lily, her father was abusive towards her mother, and also the author's father was abusive towards her father. But all of those people, fictional and non-fictional, were never abusive towards their children, which is something that is not, like a rule in the real world. Not many abusers are abusive just towards one specific person. And it's also not a rule in this book either, but I'm gonna get to that later. So there was a breaking point in the author's life. For instance, the author's parents, for instance, there was a breaking point where her father turned abusive towards her mother, and there's also a breaking point where we see Ryle become abusive towards Lily for the first time. And I suppose there was also one for Lily's parents, but I think it's not mentioned. I just wanna say, that this story is not representative of what an abusive relationship looks like. It can't be. It's just a story of one single person. In this case, Colleen Hoover's mother. And just a short disclaimer here, I am not a victim of abuse myself. I have never been in an abusive environment, but I've seen people being abused, and not just physically. I don't want to go into much detail, and I'm not here, and this is not my place to speak about these people. I just want to make sure, that people acknowledge, yes, it's okay. It's a good book. It's so well written and stuff. It ends with us. It could be, a very good book. But it's also very easy to forget that the situation described in the book is unique to the fictional characters of the book and to Colleen Hoover's life. You know, it's not what happens to every victim of abuse out there. And that's actually my main issue with this book. It never acknowledges it. And in her notes, even Colleen Hoover doesn't acknowledge it. Colleen Hoover's mother was lucky enough to understand her situation, and she was also strong enough to pack her things, take her daughters, and leave. Please correct me. I think Colleen Hoover has a sister. Oh my god, I'm already forgetting stuff. It's old age, don't mind me. Not all women are in a position to leave, either because of the psychological abuse that they've been through and they deeply believe that their husbands are actually good people. And I really want to apologize for speaking about women, but it's just that the book speaks about women being abused, so that's why I'm using this the she, gender. Men can be abused too, but just in the context of this story, I'm speaking about women, but I actually mean all people. In some cases, their life is in danger. Lily wasn't really in danger, meaning that she wasn't actually going to die if she stayed. At least that's what we saw. I don't know if Ryle could be even more abusive in the future, but till that point, her life wasn't in danger. And many victims of abuse out there, they are really in danger, and if they try to leave, they could actually, lose their lives. And many also believe that if they're just patient enough, maybe their husbands are going to treat them better in the future. Or some others believe that maybe it's their fault that this is happening, and maybe, if they become better wives, they could, they would stop. But that's not the case. Cappuccino's distracting me again. And then there's always the humiliation parameter. Looking just outside the developed world, there are many regions in this earth and many religions even that getting divorced is embarrassing. I've met individuals who believe that getting divorced is like the worst thing that could happen to a person. I don't know how they came to this conclusion. Like, they can't think of anything worse. Like, nothing beats divorce. Being divorced is worse than being abused in most cases. Worse than being murdered by your own husband. Like a man you're supposed to trust. Really? Really? So yeah, I could go on about all the ways it ends with us did victims of abuse wrong, but that's not my place, and I really don't want to talk about that. So yeah, I'm just gonna move on. I just wanted to make clear that my issue with this book is that it never acknowledges the fact that this is just a single case, and it's a lucky case where everything turned out fine. So let's take a look at Ryle's background. I'm so excited for this. I don't know why. What do we know about him other than how successful he is in his career? That he's handsome and hot and, well, and he has a sister too. What else? Yeah, thought so. Lily doesn't give us much to work with, does she? And it makes me wonder if Colleen Hoover thoughtfully orchestrated it that way, or if it was just a happy accident. Was it actually the case that Lily didn't know much about him either? Other than the fact that he shot his brother when he was young, and the fact that he has anger management issues, which is the first thing we saw when we met him in the beginning of the book, in the very first chapter, in the opening chapter of the book. Like, his anger management issues. 5 minutes later, let's get married. Jesus. Why isn't this guy in therapy? I kind of liked the fact that both Ryle and Lily's father, who I can't remember the name of, were very successful in their careers. It was a nice twist to society's argument that this doesn't happen to nice families, but well, in reality, it can happen to anyone. Lily appears to be so naive. She's so naive, it actually makes me angry. She and Ryle get married after what, 6 months of knowing each other? And I'm skipping all the I don't want a relationship bullshit. He wasn't looking for a relationship, but oh well, will you marry me? Like 3 seconds later. He wasn't looking for a relationship, but then he proposes to the very first woman he's ever dated in his life that he knows like for like 3 seconds. Okay, they actually knew each other for 6 months, but that's not the point. And just as fast as Lily decided that Ryle was the man she wanted to spend her entire life with, just like that, in a minute or so, she decides that she doesn't trust him anymore and that they should separate. Like, he was abusive sometimes, but well, okay, it wasn't that bad. But now that he's trying to change, you know what? I can't be with you anymore. And okay, kudos to Lily. Like, that's very strong of her. And it's very, I think it's very positive that she actually realized it at some point and she decided to leave. But the thing is, there was no, reasoning. There was no reasoning behind her reasons. Because after that, she just trusts Ryle with their daughter. And then he decides, I'm so confused, oh my god. She trusts Ryle with their daughter, and then she decides that she's like open to have a relationship with Atlas, who also has probably never had a relationship before. Cappuccino's licking shoes. This is so messed up. But before I move on to Atlas, let me just explain why I think that letting Ryle have spend time with their daughter alone, why I think that's messed up in this situation. Lily's logic, as I mentioned earlier, is that people are abusive towards specific people, their spouses. Ryle was abusive towards her, and her father was abusive towards her mother. And just because her father was never abusive to Lily, she thinks that Ryle will never be abusive towards their daughter. Although she actually leaves him because she wanted the daughter to grow up happily. Anyway, my point is that this is a logical fallacy. There's no way she could know that. She might be right, of course. There is a possibility that he'll never be abusive towards the daughter, but there's no conclusive way of knowing it. What if he just snaps one day and hits her? Like, Jesus. The mental gymnastics Lily goes through to forgive and forget her past. Although, like, in the whole book, she's trying to remember her past. It's so confusing to me. Her father, for instance, wasn't only abusive towards her mother, like she kept telling herself this whole time. He also snapped when he saw Atlas in her bed. And he also, like, nearly killed him. Like, he literally bit him to near death. Almost killing someone counts as problematic and abusive in my world. So what if Ryle snaps too, with a person other than Lily? What if he snaps one day and just hits the daughter? Lily never seems to consider this. Okay, so finally I want to talk about Atlas and Lily. Atlas and Lily came from abusive homes. And let me just point out how Atlas was in a much worse situation than Lily. You know, being denied shelter, you know, a basic human need. He was humiliated by his classmates, and he also almost lost his life. But he turned out okay. They both turned out okay. And I have nothing, you know, against them, but I have issues, you know. I have so many issues with this book. My point is that no matter their background, both Lily and Atlas turned out very accomplished and successful, and they both became business owners. In spite of all that they went through, all the trauma and the sleepless nights, I suppose. You know, I can never imagine what they went through, but just thinking about it, how traumatizing that must be. They turned out okay. Everything was just wrapped up in a pink ribbon, you know, because good people deserve good endings, don't they? Like I said, I have nothing against them turning out fine. I just think it's very unrealistic that 100% of people abused in this book turned out fine. Even the mother ends up like being totally fine. I think in the end of the book, like, she started dating again. 100% of victims of abuse in this book lived happily ever after. And that's not the case for most people out there. Some of them perpetrate and fuel, you know, the cycle later on in life, and they become abusers too, while others are scarred forever. Plus, Atlas and Lily, you know, were lucky enough, and they had, you know, some capital maybe to invest in their dream jobs. So that's some sort of privilege that's never acknowledged. They weren't really successful, they were very lucky, and most people aren't that lucky. Happy endings for victims of abuse are rare, and I feel like this book does nothing to acknowledge it. Okay, maybe, you know, it's not the author's place to discuss about it, but at least, you know, acknowledge that Lily's and Atlas' situation is unique. And Lily's being naive again towards Atlas. After trusting Ryle, you know, after having been through everything she went through, like, after everything that happened, like, she still thinks it's okay to be with someone she doesn't know. Atlas has feelings for Lily, like, after so many years. And it seems like he's never had a relationship in his life, except for the relationship he had with her when they were teens. And he also comes from an abusive background. So yeah, no red flags here. Who's to say he's not abusive too? Seriously, what's going on in Lily's head? Well, I suppose she could be traumatized, you know, but that doesn't seem to be the case, because at least the way she's portrayed, she's this strong, independent woman, and there's not one clue that maybe she's going through trauma, you know, except for the fact that she's trying to, like, get over her father issues. There's nothing else there. It's never explored. The fact that maybe, you know, like, she's traumatized for life, it's never explored. She's a strong, independent woman who knows exactly what she wants in life, and she goes out and gets it. And that's it. and she knows nothing about Atlas now. And yeah, maybe they knew each other like all those years ago, but they've grown. Atlas is not the same person anymore, and clearly she's not the same person anymore. She doesn't know him, and she also doesn't seem to mind that she doesn't know him. And yeah, in his defense, Atlas seems like a really nice stand-up guy, but so did Ryle and so many other, abusive partners. And then there's also the question like, did Lily and Atlas really need closure? I am so tired. I am so fed up with Lily's behavior that I won't even try to answer that. I'm gonna let you decide. Did Lily and Atlas need closure? In all fairness, I really think it was a very brave move of Lily to get up and leave, but I feel like it's never acknowledged that there are so many other people out there who don't get to do that. So yeah, this was a very confusing book to read. I really don't think it deserved all that hype. I don't think it's a bad book, but I also don't think it's like the best book ever. I had read so many good reviews about it and how people were like sobbing over it, and, stuff like that, like it racked them, whatever. So yeah, having read lots of Stephen King stories, you kind of imagine, my head, went towards other directions. So when I saw like how pink and beautiful and wrought up, everything is in this book, it kind of left me, feeling kind of it kind of left me feeling like the book was incomplete. But I mean, this was supposed to be a romance story, so I don't think Colleen Hoover could ever really put Lily in such danger. Ryle, like, killing her or something. I don't know. Okay, so one of the terrible things I thought that was gonna happen in the through the story was that I thought that Atlas was dead. Like, whenever she got flashbacks to that night, that her father beat him up, I really thought that he had died that night. And then when she saw him at the restaurant, I was like, oh my god, she's seeing ghosts. She really wants to believe that he's still there. But then he was actually there, so yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Atlas is fine now. Yeah, that's what horror does to your mind. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know, I always think about the worst case scenario. But that can be a good thing too. Yeah, shut up. Anyway, it's getting dark and I'm getting a headache, so I'm gonna leave you guys today. And I really hope you like my review. If you disagree with me, please let me know. I really want to know your opinion. But if you agree with me, thank you. Thank you, because like everyone loved this book and I feel so left out. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys for staying to the end. It really means a lot. I'll see you next week. Bye.